Let me tell you something strange about silence. Not the silence of empty rooms, not the silence of nature, but the silence of people who have accounts, who have usernames, who could speak at any moment into the digital cathedral of attention, and don't. There is a quiet tragedy in having a voice and choosing again and again to say nothing. Or perhaps, and this is what haunts me, there is something sacred in it. Something the rest of us have forgotten how to do. You know who I'm talking about. Maybe you are who I'm talking about. You have Instagram. You haven't posted in 3 years, 4, maybe ever. You have Twitter. You scroll. You consume. You watch the parade of opinions and selfies and carefully constructed moments, but you don't participate. Not because you have nothing to say, because something in you refuses to perform. And tonight we're going to talk about that refusal, what it costs, what it protects, and what it reveals about the architecture of the self in an age where existence feels conditional upon being witnessed. They have a name for you in the language of metrics. Lurker. It's almost insulting, isn't it? As if watching is a crime, as if presence without performance is somehow parasitic. The word carries shadows something that hides, something that takes without giving. But here is what no one talks about. You are not hiding from the world. You are hiding from a version of the world that demands a version of you that has never felt true. Let me describe your ritual. Tell me if I'm wrong. You open the app, not because you're curious, not really. You open it because it's a reflex now, because your thumb has memorized the motion the way your lungs have memorized breathing. You scroll, face after face, life after life. Someone's vacation, someone's promotion, someone's carefully angled selfie in golden hour light that took 47 attempts to get right. And you feel something, not jealousy, not exactly. Something hollower than that. You feel the weight of all that performance. You feel exhausted for them. And somewhere beneath that exhaustion is a question you don't let yourself ask too loudly. If I posted, would I even recognize the person who appeared? You see, the non-poster is not someone who has rejected social media. The non-poster is someone who has rejected the transaction. The transaction that says, your experience is not valid until it is seen. Your joy is not real until it is liked. Your existence is not confirmed until it is broadcasted, commented upon, and stored in the eternal archive of algorithmic memory. There's another word for refusing that transaction: sovereignty. Carl Jung once wrote about the persona, the mask we wear to meet the social world. It comes from the Latin word for the masks worn by actors in ancient theater, the face you show your employer, the voice you use with strangers, the version of yourself you assemble each morning before you leave the house. Jung understood that the persona is necessary. We cannot walk through the world utterly exposed. Some armor is required for survival, but he also understood its danger. When the mask becomes fused to the face, when you forget there is anything beneath it, you lose access to yourself. You become a performance with no performer behind it. A hollow center echoing someone else's expectations. Now, imagine the persona but infinite. Imagine it existing forever, in digital amber, visible to anyone who searches your name. Imagine curating that mask not once a day, but constantly. Every photo, every caption. Every story that disappears but somehow still existed, still took something from you to create. This is the psychological architecture of social media. And the non-poster? The non-poster has touched the wound that most people don't even know they're carrying. The performance wound. The one that says, I was taught somewhere along the way that love is conditional upon presentation. That I'm not inherently valuable. I am only valuable when I am perceived as valuable, when I am attractive, when I am successful, when I am interesting, when I am content. You've done this. You've typed a caption and erased it 12 times. You've taken a photo of a moment that felt meaningful, a sunset, a meal, your face on a day you almost liked yourself, and hovered over the post button like it was a detonation switch. And then you closed the app. Not because the photo was bad, because the wanting to share, it felt too vulnerable to examine. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The non-poster often carries more shame about posting than the poster carries about anything they've ever shared. Because the non-poster sees through the game, they see that the game is rigged, that no amount of likes will ever fill the hollow, that the hunger for external validation is a hunger that grows the more you feed it. And truly seeing it makes participation feel like a betrayal of something sacred, something they can't quite name. Musical shift, slightly deeper, more contemplative. Visuals, empty notebooks, hands holding nothing, silhouettes against windows. Let me give you a framework. Psychologists talk about something called the locus of control. It's simple, really. It asks, where do you locate the source of your value? An external locus of control says, I am good when others say I am good. I am worthy when my achievements are recognized. I am real when I am validated. An internal locus of control says, I know who I am. My worth is not up for vote. I can receive feedback from the world without letting it author my identity. Now, and this is important, social media is an external locus machine. It is engineered at every level to make your internal sense of self dependent on metrics, on numbers, on the flickering, inconsistent approval of an audience that doesn't know you and never will. The non-poster? The non-poster has intuitively rejected this colonization, not always consciously, not always cleanly. Many non-posters still measure themselves against what they see. The wound is still there, but something in them refused to participate in the performance economy. And that refusal, whether born of wisdom or pain or both, is a form of psychological resistance. But let me go deeper. Jung also spoke of the shadow. The shadow is everything about yourself that you've rejected. Everything you've exiled to the basement of your psyche because it didn't fit the acceptable image. Your anger, your grief, your hunger, your darkness. The persona is who you pretend to be. The shadow is who you pretend you're not. And here's the secret no one talks about. Social media is a persona amplifier. It has no room for shadow, no room for ambivalence, no room for the parts of you that don't photograph well, that can't be captioned, that are too heavy and too complicated for a 15-second story. The non-poster often knows this in their bones. They know that if they posted, they would only post the mask. And the mask, repeated enough times, becomes you. The shadow grows larger. The split grows wider. The real self becomes a stranger, exiled to some back room of your own mind, wondering why you stopped visiting. This is not paranoia. This is the psychology of self-fragmentation. And the non-poster, sometimes without even knowing why, is protecting themselves from it. There's another distinction we've forgotten. The difference between solitude and loneliness. They are not the same. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection. The sense that you are unseen, unknown, that there is no one on the other end of the line. Loneliness can happen in a crowd. It can happen while scrolling through hundreds of faces. It can happen in a relationship. It is not about being physically alone. It is about being unreached. But solitude? Solitude is sacred. Solitude is choosing to be with yourself, to sit in your own silence without reaching for a device, a distraction, a witness, to let your thoughts exist unbroadcasted, to let your pain be yours, to let your joy be yours. The modern world is terrified of solitude. It has taught us to narrate our lives in real time, to feel that if something isn't shared, it didn't fully happen. That experience without an audience is experience wasted. But the mystics knew different. The poets knew different. The psychologists who studied depth, who studied the architecture of the self that can hold its own weight, they knew different too. Some things are too sacred to share. Some moments lose their meaning the instant they become content. The non-poster understands this instinctively. They've had the experience of almost posting something precious and felt the wrongness of it. The way the act of sharing would transform the memory into a performance of the memory. And they chose instead to keep it, to let it live in them, to let it stay private. And yes, there is a cost. The cost is invisibility. The non-poster sometimes wonders, does anyone know I exist? If my life isn't documented, will it be forgotten? Am I building a castle in my mind that no one will ever enter? This is real pain, but so is the alternative. So is becoming a stranger to yourself in exchange for being visible to others. Let me tell you what I've come to believe. There are two kinds of people who don't post on social media. The first kind has been silenced by shame, by anxiety, by the conviction that they are too ordinary, too ugly, too boring to deserve space in the feed. They want to post. They want to be seen. But something in them has been wounded into invisibility. This is not wisdom. This is pain. And it deserves compassion, not romanticization. But the second kind has chosen silence, not from fear. From clarity, they have realized that their attention is sacred, that their inner life is not content, that there is a self within them that exists before performance, and that self requires protection. They are not hiding, they are preserving. And here's the part that might sting. You might not know which one you are. You might be telling yourself you've made a philosophical choice when really you're just afraid. Or you might be judging yourself as broken when really you've touched something true. The answer is not in your behavior. It's in your relationship to your behavior. Ask yourself, when I scroll and don't post, do I feel free or do I feel imprisoned? The answer lives in that distinction. Here is what I want you to know. You are allowed to exist without proof. You are allowed to have experiences that no one sees, joys that no one likes, sorrows that no one comments on with a sad emoji and moves past in the scroll. You are allowed to be a person, a whole complicated, unbroadcasted person, without justifying your existence to an algorithm. The noise will not stop. The pressure will not disappear. The world will continue to ask you to perform, to curate, to become content. But somewhere beneath all of that, somewhere in the quiet you're protecting, there is a version of you that doesn't need to be seen to be real, that has never needed a witness to exist, that knows something the rest of the world is only beginning to remember, that the most human thing you can do is to stop performing for a moment and simply be.